Welcome back to another episode of the Flying G Huddle, your inside look into Gladwin football. I'm Casey Campbell. I am your host, and we are pleased to be joined by Mark Jarsfer, of course, the head coach of Gladwin football. How's it going?
Doing all right, Casey. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just talk about this week's game. A tough loss to Claire this week. Just kind of take me through it.
Yeah, ended up being a phenomenal game, especially if you're a fan. Kind of got off to a wonky start though, with the weather that was pushing through the state. Just some pop-up cells ended up delaying it until an 8 p.m. kickoff. And so, that's something that both teams had to kind of deal with and go through. But I don't feel that really impacted the game. And we had a phenomenal crowd and all of that. And so environment was what it deserved for that kind of game. But to kind of start things off, we received the ball and we were able to drive right down the field and score, make it 7-0. Claire answered and made it 7-7. And then there was some back and forth, for a little bit. And Claire was able to take a 13-7 lead going into the halftime, and it was their ball to start the second half. And so, in the locker room at halftime, we kind of challenged our guys to step up and made it clear that no one was going to give them anything, and if they wanted it, they had to go take it. And we certainly felt like we were going to have an opportunity to do that if we continued to play well and execute and do all the things that we talk about. Claire came out, which wasn't ideal, and went right down the field and scored and made it 20-7. And so, at that point, it was really gut check time for our guys, and I was proud of the way that they were able to answer and respond by scoring on our next possession to make it to 20-14. And then a little bit of back and forth. We were able to put another one on the board and take the lead to make it 21-20. And then even had a chance, in my opinion, to put the game away with about 4 minutes left, 5 minutes left, something like that in the fourth quarter. Claire turned it over, sudden change, and we weren't able to get in the end zone or even really extend that drive much. And so ended up punting the ball back to them down to the 1 yard line. So they had to go 99 yards with about 4 minutes left on the clock, down one. And they were able to do so and score a touchdown and left us about a minute in the game. And they're up 21 or 26-21. And then we had a couple shot plays. And when you're in that situation, obviously, teams are kind of playing prevent style defense, and that's kind of how it ended. And so, it's back-to-back weeks where we've lost, close games, where we've played, right in these games and had plenty of opportunities to come out on the better side of things in both. But just weren't ultimately able to make those critical plays that we needed to in the super critical moments that allow you to be successful against good teams. And so, it's an interesting thing when you're sitting there at 2-2 and a 500 ball club and what that does to you mentally. But I think it's interesting if you were to look at this and say we had these games scheduled week 1 and 7 and you lose them both. It's a whole different feeling, just because of how spread out it would be and that kind of stuff. But it is our schedule, and we had to play two really, really tough opponents to start league play. And it doesn't get any easier this week with Standish coming in, and so, or us going to Standish, sorry. And so kind of got to get back to work and prepare and plan and do all the things that we know it takes to be successful and find a way to win one of these close, tough games against a good opponent. If we're able to do that, I think that we have a great opportunity in front of us to get on a little bit of a roll, because we're certainly capable of playing very good football, and we are a good team. And that's what we need to do heading into the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, so let's. I know it was a loss, but we obviously still have to do what we have to do and award MVPs of the week, because there, as always, there were some good performances.
Yeah, certainly. And like I said, even though it was a loss, we did a lot of good things and made a lot of good plays and saw good things from our team. And so offensively, Trace Corlew had another really, really nice night. And awkwardly enough, I guess is probably not the right word, but it came from the running back position because we got a little banged up there early, and he hasn't really practiced at all at running back this year. I mean, we used him in that capacity a decent amount last year, but we got into a position where we felt like that would be our best path going forward with our injuries and fatigue and stuff like that. And so tossed him in the backfield, and he provided for us. He had 18 carries for 115 yards. He had an additional 3 catches for 26 yards and a touchdown. And so he just continues to show that wherever he lines up, he's going to be a threat. And has some serious playmaking ability. On defense, Matt Lechner did a great job for us again. Led us with 11 tackles. He had quite a few QB pressures and forced some kind of off platform like back foot type throws that benefited us. And so he was just a kind of a terror on that side of the ball, and really had a good night offensively too. He's turning into quite the player and leader for us as one of our senior captains. And then special teams, Eric Rogo, our kicker, he was 3 for 3 on extra points, which had we been able to provide that stop on that 99-yard drive, his extra point would have made the difference. It was a 21-20 game at that point. And so not only was he perfect on extra points, of his 4 kickoff attempts, he had 2 touchbacks, and the other 2, he successfully was able to keep away from Ryan Louch, which was the obvious game plan. It's one of those kids where it's very similar to Trace Corlew. People don't enjoy kicking to him. And Claire was trying to flip-flop him late and do some things, and Eric did a great job of being kind of a high IQ guy and understanding what was going on and making sure the ball didn't get in his hands on those kickoffs. And so those are our MVPs for this week.
All right. How did the now time for the JV team update? How'd they do?
Yeah, so they were able to go into Claire and pick up a big win. They were kind of sitting there at 2-1, just like us. Claire is their JV team was undefeated, 3-0, I believe. Yeah, at that point, and had gone 9-0 last year, and so that's a very well coached JV team and a great program just in general. And so for them to kind of end that 12-game winning streak of Claire JV team is a big deal. As it's we always talk about how we're not necessarily as concerned with wins and losses, but that if you're going to win one, that's certainly a big one to get against a team that's had that kind of success. And so they're rolling right along and doing good things and developing and catching a few wins along the way. So that's a bonus.
Okay, now it's of course time for one of our favorite parts of the show, to talk about one of your staff members this week.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've talked about this guy in the past, but he is an absolute legend, and that's Coach Mike Bailey. He was a Gladwin head football coach for a few years back in like the early mid 2000s, sometime like that. He's actually in our Gladwin Athletic Hall of Fame as a coach, and he just does a phenomenal job for us. He works primarily with our JV team and coaching those kids up and loving them, and he's hard on them at the same time. And lots of parents and that kind of stuff have had Mr. Bailey as a teacher back in the day before he retired, and he's just somebody that's so respected in our community and in our football program. I was fortunate enough to get to do part of his Hall of Fame induction speech, and the best way that I could put it is not only is he a Hall of Fame coach, but he's also a Hall of Fame person, and just because he's such a high character guy and loves these kids and does right by them all the time. For example, like every single morning that he comes to weight training in the off season, he'll bring my daughter like gummy snacks or a clementine orange and peel it for her and that kind of stuff. And so just the kind of person he is. And we were missing him for a few weeks this year. He had to have, a knee replacement done. But it didn't keep him sidelined very long. Another week or two later, he was back out on the practice field with crutches and then a brace. And so I call him the ultimate Iron Man as well, because he loves football, he loves our kids, he loves our community, and he's just a great dude.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, the schedule does not get any easier, as of course you travel to another new opponent in the Jack Pine Conference. Of course, that's Standish Sterling. What do we expect from them? I mean, Marty's always going to bring a good team.
Yeah, Coach Malcolm is one of the best in the business, that's for sure. And this is a long time NEMC rival from back in the day, and so Gladwin and Standish have certainly had their fair share of big time games and battles, and you're always going to get a hard hitting, physical, well coached team when you show up for that matchup, and so I would expect nothing less than that. It's interesting too, because we were coming off from back-to-back weeks and Ogama and Clare, and stylistically those two are two very different teams, with Ogama being more like the traditional power eye, like in your face, run it right at you, and then Clare does a little bit of that, but then they just so much speed and space and spread and option football, and so you get two very different stylistic matchups, and then you go against Ogama, and it's kind of against Standish, and it's kind of a blend. And so it's this new Jack Pine is certainly awesome if you like good football. I talked about that going into this season, that the days of seeing 50-point margins of victory are probably gone, and so far that's provided to be true in the games that we've had. Both of them coming down to 5-point games. And so I would expect another great physical, tough matchup that's going to come down to the wire, and the team that executes the best and makes the fewest amount of mistakes is likely going to be the winner.
All right. Well, we'll talk all about that next. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Flying G Huddle. Tune in next week, where we'll recap this week's game against Standish Sterling, and we'll preview next week's matchup against Midland Bullock Creek. All right. We will talk to you next week.